So apparently one of the guns used in the November 2015 Paris terror attack came from the Fast and Furious scandal that happened in 2010. Now, if you don't know what the Fast and Furious scandal is, I'll give you a brief crash course on it. Now, what happened was the ATF, in conjunction with Eric Holder and the DOJ and Obama's administration, decided to allow straw buyers to be able to purchase guns and then give them to Mexican cartels in order to track them. Now, what a straw buyer is, it's basically when somebody cannot buy a gun for whatever reason, they use somebody else to buy it for them and then they get it, right? So basically, the ATF, Eric Holder, they knew that these people were buying guns for the cartels, but their whole point was to try and track the guns to try and lead them to the actual heads of the cartel. But of course, it backfired. And what ended up happening, how the whole thing got unfolded, was a Border Patrol agent named Brian Terry was murdered in 2010. And one of the guns that was at the scene, they linked to the Fast and Furious scandal. And that's when the whole can of worms came out. And that's when a whole lot of damage control went on. You had Eric Holder, who was subpoenaed to release documents about the whole situation, and he initially refused. But then he got charged with contempt and was forced to release the documents 3.5 years later. And what the documents revealed was that he knew what was going on and he tried to cover it up. He knew that there was a whole gun walking thing going on, which basically means that the guns were allowed to go somewhere where they should have not have gone. He knew that was going on. He tried to cover it up. He tried to make it seem like it was just the ATF and the local people in Phoenix, Arizona, where it happened. But that's not the case. It was something that kind of came from the top. It was part of a larger operation called Fast and Furious, which the whole purpose was to try and get the drug cartel members, the big dogs. But of course it failed. I think there may have been like 2,000 guns that were allowed to walk, and only about 700 of them were recovered. Many of them have been used in murders in Mexico. There have been guns all over these crime scenes that have come from the Fast and Furious thing. And it's kind of strained a relationship between U.S. and Mexico, because Mexican government is like, hey, we have all these problems here. We have all this violence. And a lot of it is due to the guns that you allowed to come into the country and that you knew would go into the hands of the cartels. You armed the cartels. So that's the whole background behind that. Now, this happened in 2010. So now in 2015, in November, one of the guns shows up overseas in Paris and was used in the Paris terror attack. Now, that's not been 100% confirmed, but it's been pretty much confirmed, because on his website, I think it's called judicialwatch.org, they talk about how one of the guns had been traced to an individual, but initially they tried to keep that individual quiet. They did not want to bring him up on any charges because they didn't want him to go public with what was going on. You see, they didn't want to spill the beans because most likely he was involved with the whole Fast and Furious situation. And the person that they alleged to have had the gun has had prior incidents with guns. So this is not a first-time offender. This is not somebody that's a stranger to the system. So why would you keep an habitual offender off of the radar? It's because you got something to hide. So obviously something's going on there. The guy was in Phoenix. The Fast and Furious thing was based out of Phoenix. So you put two and two together, you see what's going on. Now, what probably happened was he probably sold that gun to somebody illegally, and then they used it in the attack. All this talk about gun control, trying to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. I mean, look at what Obama, the DOJ, and the ATF are doing. You're giving the guns right to the criminals while at the same time disarming regular people. How are you going to sit there and say that the regular person should not be able to have air quotes semi-automatic assault weapon, which pretty much all guns on the market are semi-automatic unless you have a single action pump or something like that, or somehow you're able to get a machine gun illegally, which the person also had. They said he had a fully automatic. Now, I don't know how he got that. I don't know if that came from the Fast and Furious situation. Now, if that's going on, if you get the guns from the government or vis-a-vis the government in some kind of indirect way, then that tells you what's going on. It kind of gives credence to a lot of these conspiracy theories going on out there about the government putting guns and drugs in the community, right? I mean, you got the government that got caught red-handed giving the guns to the Mexican cartels indirectly. And you got this guy here who has been alleged to have sold one of the guns that were used in the Paris terror attack in possession of a fully automatic gun. How did you get that? But I digress. The whole point here is this. These guns should not have been in the hands of the criminals to go towards violence. You got a lot of blood on these guns, right? People like Eric Holder, Barack Obama tried to cover it up, all because they were trying to get the Mexican cartels. And it kind of points to the stupidity of our leadership. Why did you think that these guns would not be used in any kind of murders in Mexico? Why did you think that these guns would not be used to kill any Americans? And how did you think that you would be able to track all of these guns? The operation did not make sense from the beginning. It should never have happened. And here we are. We don't know to what extent this gun was used or was not used in the Paris terror attack so far. I mean, I don't even know if it was actually used. It just happened to be at the scene or around, or somebody had it in their possession. I'm not really sure, but it was over there and it was involved in some kind of way with the attack. It could have been used to kill a lot of people. And it kind of brings my whole point home about liberals and how they behave with this hypocrisy and the things that don't make any sense. You say you want to be for gun control, but yet you want to arm our enemies. You want to arm drug cartels. You want to arm terrorists, but you don't want to have regular citizens with the guns. It makes you think, why? Why would you arm our enemies but not allow us to be armed? Whose side are you really playing for? Are you on our side or are you on their side? So that's all I got. I mean, so what do you think? Do you think this was a epic fail by the United States government, by Eric Holder, by the DOJ, by Barack Hussein Obama to allow these guns to get into the hands of people that they knew would give them to drug cartels? See, I'm not one to say that you need to restrict guns. And I'm not saying that guns are the problem and guns are the reason why the Paris terror attack happened or was the reason why the Border Patrol agent, Mr. Brian Terry, was murdered back in 2010. No, the point is you have these people who you know are going to commit crime. Just prosecute the criminals. Don't give the criminal the gun that you know they're going to use improperly. You know that they're going to use the gun improperly. It's very simple. Don't arm terrorists, right? Arm regular citizens, arm civilians, arm people that need the guns. Don't intentionally give people guns that you know are going to go out and do something wrong. Do you think that the Fast and Furious thing had good intentions, but it just ended up bad? You know, the drug cartels kill a lot of folks in Mexico and the United States. They flood our streets with drugs, guns, crime, just general chaos and mayhem. So the whole thing with the gun walking scandal was good intentions with bad outcome. I disagree with that statement, but whatever your comments are, positive or negative, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.